Well, folks, it's another day and another Gary Griffith rant. And this time he's going all out against the Commissioner of Police, Alistair Guevara, and using terms to describe the Commissioner that, in my opinion, borders on defamation. But let's talk about some of the things he said and to show that he's not himself either speaking the truth or aware of the real facts that he ought to be aware of. And for that, I want to introduce a document. It's called the Financial Scrutiny Unit Report to the Fourth Session of Parliament, and does a summarization of issues found during the period 2018 to 2024. Anybody can find this document because it's out there. And on page 9 and page 10 of that document, it gives some very startling and important details about contracts in the police service, especially contracts under Gary Griffith's time. But before getting to that, let me deal with two of the things that he said that can be clearly and easily debunked. Number one, he was criticizing the police service and the commissioner because they said there was a reduced number of serious crimes in the country during the carnival period. Gary went on a rant and said, so people didn't pickpocket, people didn't had drug possession, people didn't fight, people didn't charge for DUI. Obviously, Gary Griffith, those things quite possibly happened. But any police officer who does any proper training from the training college and up will know that fights and drug possession and DUIs are not classified as serious crimes. We have different classifications. Serious crimes, which include murder, rapes, robberies, those kinds of offenses. Then we have minor crimes. And then we have minor offenses. So a fight or obscene language is a minor offense. Some kind of crimes like an assault occasioning a wound will be a minor crime. And I'm talking just for my knowledge as a police officer. And driving under the influence of alcohol could be classified as a traffic offense depending on the circumstances of the case. So these things might have happened, but they are not classified as serious crimes. So when the commissioner and the police service says there has been a reduction in serious crimes, they know what they are talking about. But Gary, we all know, you were never trained as a police officer. You never had to write up these books and reports and statements as most of us has had to do who were police who were trained. You were parachuted in at the top in a mistake by the former prime minister that he himself admitted as being the worst in his life. And every day you're talking, you're proving it. So Gary, and for the edification of the public, there are class and stark differences between serious crimes, minor offenses, and traffic offenses. And from Gary's rant, it appears that he does not know the difference. Now, let's go to what he was talking about and saying that he, Gary Griffith, purchased Axon and GTAC body cameras for the TTPS during his time, and he's challenging the police commissioner to provide documentation. Well, Gary, if the commissioner does indeed provide documentation, it will prove you to be a liar. Because the contract you signed for the 250 body cameras on the 18th of February 2021, yes, that is the date, and your signature is there, unless you're going to claim that wasn't your signature and was an electronic signature by somebody else. But your signature is on there, and it says clearly the cameras you bought were Nahua body cameras from a company called Ginamco Caribbean Limited. And it's the DHI MT210 series of cameras that you bought. Not Axon, not GTAC. So show your contract to show that it's different to that. Because I know it's not. And if you do any comparison on Google, like you like to go to, you will see that Nahua body cameras, let's see, if you have a small security firm or company, Axon is for bigger police departments like the TTPS, but you did not buy that, or GTAC, you did not. And the other contract was signed for the purchase of 750 cameras from Amalgamated. That was purportedly signed not by you, but by an IT officer who was not the accounting officer because you are. Those cameras were Motorola SI 500. And there was a Guardian story about it at the same time. And they were showing a police officer with a picture and saying, this is the Motorola SI 500 cameras that were bought. And if you zoom in, you could see it says Motorola on the camera. So why are you saying that you bought items that you did not bought or were not bought within your time? Maybe you bought it for another service. I don't know, but not the TTPS. Certainly not the TTPS. But coming back to that financial auditing report, it has some very clear issues in it that were raised. And on page 9 and page 10 of the report, they highlighted it, that you had a note, a contract price note, given the price of the contract, and then when they check the contract itself, the contract for 5, 6 or more times the value that was put there. And what they were told when they asked the question as to why the contract is saying this, they said, well, okay, if the contract is over 5 years, we divided that by 5 to give the figure. So if the figure is 10,000, you find that the real contract price of the contract itself was 60,000. Or if it was 10 million, it would be 60 million. And that is there in that report. And that is what the commissioner is talking about when he says that the police service has bills from that time, from your time, that would amount to $100 million having to be paid. And here how Gary says, by saying that the service and maintenance agreements is included in the contract, is foolish. It's just like if you buy a car for $150,000 and you say the car is worth $1 million because you had to put oil and gas in it. But Gary, if you enter into a contract in which you include terms and conditions of the contract that says, for example, that the company that you bought from are the ones who has certain proprietary rights and proprietary interests and authority, that is part of the contract. It is not like when you buy a car and you drive it out the showroom. You could go to any petrol station and put petrol and gas and oil, or you could get it serviced by any other company. It is not the same thing. Once it's in the contract, it is part of the contract. So we have to look at that document. I challenge anybody to look at page 9 and page 10 and then look at the contracts and see. And then ask Gary, wasn't the amalgamated contract signed under your time? In March 2021? And who signed the contract? And were you aware? You must have been. But some of these contracts, let's be fair here to Gary and to the officers, had ministry sign-off and approval. So therefore, accountability doesn't only rest with him. or with the IT person. I call him Mr. Greek because of the name. But it will also rest with the former minister and the ministry who should be involved in this discussion and not have Mr. Griffith maligning and demeaning and insulting the present commissioner of police. What I wanted to come back at me. Gary, I'm asking the questions because I have much more questions than that. And you know my questions are difficult because you never attempt to answer it. And why the media not asking these questions but only giving you friendly opportunities to run your mouth? I want to know how many of them get firearms under your time and how many firearms they got. Because if they don't start asking questions, I go start asking questions and giving answers. Let me see where you'll come back and say no. Talk about my looks. I'm good looking.